Most people think the night is just the end of the day, a pause between what was and what will be. They switch off the light, fall into bed, and carry the same worries, the same doubts, the same noise from the day. But here's what they don't realize: the mind never sleeps. Your body may rest, but your subconscious keeps working, and whatever you plant in it right before you close your eyes, those last thoughts, those last feelings, that's the seed that grows while you sleep. You wake up tomorrow living out the story you wrote the night before. That's why the moments before sleep are the most powerful of the entire day. This is where you can reprogram your thoughts, reshape your character, and redirect your destiny. If you go to bed filled with fear, anger, or complaints, your mind multiplies them in the dark. But if you go to bed with strength, gratitude, and vision, your subconscious spends the night aligning you with that truth. The Stoics knew this long ago. What you feed your mind becomes your life. And science today agrees. Your subconscious accepts what you repeat at night, without judgment, without filter. That makes every night a doorway. Every night is a chance to plant something new, and every morning is a new life waiting to grow from it. So tonight, and every night after, you hold the choice. Will you fall asleep repeating the same story that holds you back, or will you write a new one that sets you free? The mind never sleeps. Your body can be exhausted, your eyes heavy, your muscles drained, your breath slowing down as you finally sink into the mattress. But your mind does not shut off. It never has, and it never will. Even when you're deep in sleep, your subconscious keeps running, keeps recording, keeps building the programs that shape the way you wake up the next morning. The truth is, the night doesn't erase the day, it carries it forward. Think about it. Have you ever gone to bed stressed, angry, or worried, and then woken up the next morning feeling the exact same way, as if the night had done nothing to heal you? That's because your subconscious took those emotions and kept them alive all night long. Sleep doesn't delete thoughts, it multiplies them. What you give your mind in those final minutes before drifting off becomes the raw material for your dreams, your mood, and your energy when you wake up. The Stoics understood this before science could prove it. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. What you dwell on becomes who you are, and the quiet hours of the night, when your conscious defenses are down, are the most powerful time for those thoughts to sink in. In the silence before sleep, you hand your subconscious a script, and tomorrow it plays it out. Now here's where it gets real. Most people hand their mind the worst kind of script. They scroll endlessly on their phones, feeding their brain with noise, fear, comparison, or empty distraction. They fall asleep replaying arguments, regrets, or self-criticism. And then they wonder why they wake up feeling heavy, unmotivated, or hopeless. But it's not a mystery. The mind never sleeps, and if you feed it garbage, it will spend the night building a garbage life. But it works the other way too. If you feed your mind strength, clarity, gratitude, or vision, it will spend the night weaving those into the fibers of your subconscious. That's why affirmations, visualizations, and intentional thoughts before bed are so powerful. They slip past the noise of the day and go straight into the deepest part of you. It's not magic, it's programming, and every single one of us is being programmed nightly, whether we choose it or not. Think of your mind like a garden. The day scatters seeds everywhere: stress, joy, anger, hope, fear, love. But at night, your subconscious is the soil that decides what grows. If you don't tend to it, weeds of doubt and negativity will spread on their own. But if you consciously plant seeds of discipline, focus, and strength right before sleep, Those are the ones that take root. And when you wake up, you'll feel it. You'll notice your perspective shift. You'll sense a quiet strength rising in you that wasn't there before. This is why the most successful people protect their nights. Athletes visualize their performance before bed. Leaders review their goals. Some people write affirmations or spend a few minutes in gratitude. They're not doing this because it sounds nice. They're doing it because they know the mind never sleeps. And if you leave it unattended, it will run wild. But if you guide it, even for a few minutes, it becomes your greatest ally. Ask yourself honestly, what have you been handing your mind at night? Are you giving it fear, anger, and doubt to multiply while you sleep? Or are you giving it strength, purpose, and gratitude to expand in the dark? The choice is always yours. The Stoics would challenge you with this. Don't waste the most powerful part of your day. Don't treat the night as if it's nothing but rest. Treat it as preparation. Treat it as the secret training ground where your mind is shaped for tomorrow. Because the truth is, every night is a rehearsal for the life you will wake up to. That's the first truth. The mind never sleeps. It is always listening, always shaping, always building. The only question is, what story are you letting it write while you dream? The subconscious takes everything in. Here's something most people never think about. Your subconscious doesn't argue with you. It doesn't debate. It doesn't analyze. It doesn't say, wait a second, that thought doesn't make sense. The subconscious just takes it in, stores it, and turns it into part of the script that runs your life. That's both the most terrifying truth and the most liberating one. If you go to bed telling yourself, I'm a failure, nothing ever changes, I'm tired of my life, your subconscious accepts those words as commands. It doesn't step in and say, oh, he doesn't really mean that. It quietly writes them down in permanent ink and begins to design your reality around them. The next morning, you wake up carrying the same weight you went to sleep with because your subconscious kept working on it all night. The Stoics would call this slavery, being ruled by thoughts you never chose consciously. Epictetus said, you are what you constantly think about. And if you're constantly feeding your subconscious fear, doubt, or anger, then you're literally programming yourself to live small, anxious, and defeated. Not because you're cursed, not because the world is against you, but because your subconscious never filters the garbage you keep feeding it. Think of it like a sponge. Whatever you soak it in, it absorbs completely. Good or bad, true or false, empowering or destructive, the subconscious doesn't discriminate. That's why people can carry childhood beliefs for decades. A parent might have once said, you're not good enough. You'll never amount to anything. And even though it was just one sentence, repeated enough times, it soaked into the subconscious and stayed there. Years later, that adult may still sabotage themselves, not because they lack ability, but because their subconscious is running on that old command. Now, here's the good news. This works in your favor too. If you choose carefully what you feed your subconscious, especially at night when it's most open, you can rewrite the script. Imagine closing your eyes each night saying, I am capable. I am disciplined. I'm building the best version of myself. Your subconscious doesn't argue, it just records. And if you repeat it often enough, it begins to feel less like wishful thinking and more like reality. That's the power of affirmations, visualization, and intentional focus before bed. They're not cheesy. They're not just positive thinking. They're commands, and your subconscious obeys them. What you say and imagine with intensity sinks into the deepest part of your mind, and eventually reshapes your identity. Think about how dangerous it is when you don't control this process. If you fall asleep scrolling through social media, comparing yourself to everyone else, your subconscious absorbs that. If you end your day replaying failures and regrets, your subconscious absorbs that. If the last thing you see is fear-driven news, your subconscious absorbs that too. And the next day, you feel drained, insecure, anxious, and you don't even know why. But the reason is simple. Your subconscious is always listening, always recording, always building. This is why the moments before sleep matter so much. Your conscious mind is shutting down, your filters are dropping, and your subconscious is wide open. That's the doorway. That's when you can either poison yourself with negativity or empower yourself with truth. And the choice you make in those minutes determines how you wake up, not just tomorrow, but every day after. The Stoics would challenge you here. They'd say, guard your mind more fiercely than your body, because while your body rests, your mind keeps absorbing. It never stops. It never questions. It just executes. And if you don't take responsibility for what you're feeding it, you're surrendering control of your life. So let me ask you, what are you giving your subconscious every night? Complaints, fear, and doubt, or gratitude, vision, and strength? Because make no mistake, it will take it all in, and tomorrow you'll live out what you planted tonight. That's the second truth. The subconscious takes everything in. No filter, no judgment, no debate, just acceptance. And that means every night you hold incredible power, the power to poison yourself, or the power to reprogram yourself. The choice is always yours. The most powerful moment of the day. Most people believe the most powerful part of the day is the morning, that first hour when you wake up, when you set your routine, when you plan your goals. And yes, mornings matter. But here's a truth very few people realize. The real power doesn't start when the sun rises. It starts in the quiet minutes before you fall asleep. Why? Because those final moments before sleep are a golden doorway. In that short window, your conscious mind begins to fade, your defenses drop, and your subconscious becomes wide open. It's like the soil is freshly tilled and ready for seeds. Whatever you plant there, whether it's fear or faith, doubt or determination, complaints or vision, grows deep roots through the night. And when you wake up, that's the harvest you live with. Think about it. In the morning, you're already running. The world is loud, responsibilities are calling, distractions are everywhere. But at night, in those last minutes before sleep, everything slows down. The outside noise fades. It's just you and your thoughts. And that's exactly why it's the most powerful moment of the day. It's the only time when you have complete control over what enters your mind without interference. The Stoics would have loved this practice. They were masters of nightly reflection. Marcus Aurelius used his evenings to write in his journal, to examine his thoughts, to decide how he wanted to meet tomorrow. He understood that the day doesn't begin when you wake up. It begins when you program your mind the night before. That's wisdom people still miss today. Here's the danger. Most people waste this moment. They spend it scrolling on their phone, filling their mind with comparison, gossip, or fear. They fall asleep watching TV, letting someone else's words, someone else's story, become the last thing their subconscious absorbs. They go to bed with arguments, regrets, or doubts echoing in their head. And then they wonder why their mornings feel heavy, why their energy is low, why they wake up uninspired. It's simple. The most powerful moment of the day was wasted on garbage, and their subconscious spent the whole night multiplying it. But imagine if you use this time differently. Imagine lying down, closing your eyes, and planting thoughts of strength, gratitude, and vision. Imagine repeating affirmations like, I am capable, I am disciplined, I am moving forward. Imagine visualizing the person you want to become, seeing yourself walking with confidence, acting with courage, speaking with clarity. Your subconscious wouldn't fight you. It would accept those seeds, nurture them, and begin weaving them into your identity. And the next morning, instead of waking up heavy, you'd wake up aligned with that vision. That's why these final minutes are so sacred. You don't need an hour. You don't need a big ritual. You only need intention. 5 minutes of conscious focus before sleep is worth more than 5 hours of aimless scrolling. Because the subconscious never sleeps, and it will keep working all night on whatever you gave it. Think about this as spiritual training. Athletes don't just train their bodies, they train their minds. And the last thing you do before sleep is like the last rep of the day. It carries weight. It decides whether you're building yourself up or tearing yourself down. The Stoics would remind you, greatness isn't built in public, it's built in private, in the choices you make when no one else is watching. And there's no moment more private than the one right before you close your eyes. So let me ask you, what are you doing with the most powerful moment of your day? Are you wasting it? Letting distractions and negativity creep into your subconscious? Or are you using it as a weapon, as a tool, as a ritual to build the life you want? That's the third truth. The most powerful moment of your day is not the morning. It's the night, the last few minutes before sleep. Guard it. Use it. Make it sacred. Because whatever you plant there doesn't just shape your dreams, it shapes your destiny. The danger of negative thoughts. We've all had nights where we climb into bed with a heavy mind. Maybe you're replaying an argument, stressing about money, worrying about the future, or beating yourself up for something you didn't do. You turn off the light, but your brain refuses to shut down. And the next morning, instead of waking up refreshed, you wake up already tired, already stressed, already behind. That's not just coincidence. That's the danger of negative thoughts. Here's the brutal truth. Your mind doesn't care if a thought is helpful or harmful. It doesn't ask, is this good for me? It simply takes what you give it and multiplies it in the dark. The subconscious never sleeps. And if you go to bed with fear, doubt, or anger, those emotions don't fade overnight. They grow roots. You wake up living in the exact same state you fell asleep in, sometimes even worse. The Stoics warned about this. They believed your inner life is more important than anything external because your thoughts become your reality. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The things you think about determine the quality of your mind." If you spend your nights feeding your mind negativity, don't be surprised when your mornings are filled with heaviness. Negativity doesn't vanish, it compounds. Think about it like this. When you go to sleep, your subconscious is like an open field. Whatever seeds you plant before bed, whether it's gratitude or resentment, peace or worry, those seeds get watered all night long. If you plant weeds of negativity, they'll be waiting for you in the morning, stronger than before. And if you repeat this cycle night after night, you're not just having bad days, you're programming a bad life. Now, some people think it's just thoughts. They don't mean anything, but neuroscience proves otherwise. The brain rewires itself based on repetition. This is called neuroplasticity. When you replay negative thoughts over and over, you strengthen the neural pathways that make those thoughts automatic. In other words, every time you go to bed with fear or self-doubt, you're carving those beliefs deeper into your brain. You're making them part of who you are. And here's the trap. Negative thoughts feel powerful at night because you're vulnerable. The distractions of the day are gone, the world is quiet, and suddenly you're left alone with yourself. If you don't control that silence, your fears will fill it. You'll lie in bed rehearsing worst-case scenarios, reliving mistakes, or predicting failure. And the subconscious doesn't argue, it just records. The next day, you live according to that script. The danger is not just in the thoughts themselves, but in the story they build. One negative thought becomes a chain of others. I'm not good enough. I'll never change. Nothing works out for me. Soon, you're not just having negative thoughts. You're living under a negative identity. And identities are much harder to break than passing emotions. But here's the good news. If negativity compounds, so does positivity. Just like weeds spread if left unchecked, flowers grow if you plant them intentionally. You don't have to let your nights be ruled by toxic thoughts. You can take back control by deciding what to feed your mind before bed. Affirmations, gratitude, visualization. These aren't gimmicks. They're the antidote to negativity. They're how you rewrite the script before your subconscious runs with it. The Stoics practiced this kind of mental discipline every night. They reflected on their actions, but they didn't dwell in regret. They sought lessons, not self-punishment. They ended their day by aligning with their values, not with their fears. You can do the same. Instead of replaying what went wrong, replay what you learned. Instead of focusing on what's missing, focus on what you still have. Instead of affirming weakness, affirm strength. So let me ask you, what do you hand your mind at night? Are you handing it poison or medicine? Because make no mistake, it will take whatever you give it and magnify it while you sleep. That's the fourth truth. Negative thoughts are not harmless. They are seeds that grow in the dark, shaping your mornings, your identity, and your destiny. If you don't guard your mind before bed, you're not just losing sleep, you're losing your future. Affirmations are commands. A lot of people roll their eyes when they hear the word affirmations. They think it's just cheesy self-help talk, repeating empty phrases in front of a mirror, hoping life magically changes. But here's the truth. Most people miss. Affirmations are not wishes. They are commands. And your subconscious, which never sleeps, takes those commands seriously. Think of it like this. Your mind is a computer, and your subconscious is the operating system. Whatever you repeat with emotion, especially right before sleep, is like typing code straight into that system. Say, I'm capable, and your subconscious accepts it. Say, I'm weak, I can't do this, and it accepts that too. The subconscious doesn't argue, it doesn't judge, it just executes. And over time, those commands shape your beliefs, your actions, and your identity. The Stoics may not have used the word affirmations, but they lived the principle. Epictetus reminded his students to constantly rehearse truths that aligned with virtue. First say to yourself what you would be, then do what you must do. That's an affirmation. It's not magic. It's aligning your words with the identity you want to embody, so your actions follow naturally. Now, here's where it gets powerful. Affirmations work best at night. Why? Because your conscious mind, the part that analyzes, doubts, and argues, is shutting down. Your subconscious is wide open, like fertile soil waiting for seeds. Whatever you tell yourself in those last minutes before sleep will sink deep, repeating like an echo all night long. If you choose the right words, you're installing powerful commands. For example, imagine going to bed every night saying, I'm disciplined, I'm focused, I'm in control. At first, it might feel fake. You might not fully believe it yet, but your subconscious doesn't care if you believe. It just records. And the more you repeat it, the more natural it becomes. After weeks, those words stop sounding like affirmations and start sounding like facts. And when your subconscious accepts something as fact, your behavior changes to match. The opposite is also true. Negative self-talk is just toxic affirmations. I can't change. I'm stuck. Nothing works out for me. Those are commands too, and if you repeat them often enough, your subconscious obeys. That's why so many people feel trapped. They've been affirming their own limitations without even realizing it. This is why you can't afford to dismiss affirmations as silly. The truth is, you're already affirming something every day. Every complaint, every doubt, every insult you throw at yourself is an affirmation. The only question is, are you affirming weakness or are you affirming strength? Science backs this up too. Studies on neuroplasticity show that the brain adapts to repeated thoughts and images. Affirmations aren't magic, they're repetition, and repetition rewires your brain. Combine that with the emotional intensity of nighttime, and you have one of the most powerful tools for reprogramming your identity. But here's the key. Affirmations must be intentional, not random. Don't just say vague phrases like, I'm happy. Be specific and powerful. I'm moving forward. I'm in control of my choices. I'm building my best self. The more concrete and emotional the affirmation, the stronger the command. The Stoics would challenge us here. Don't just say the words, live them. Affirmations are the commands, but your actions are the proof. Together, they build a new identity that no one can shake. So tonight, before you close your eyes, remember this. You're giving your subconscious direct instructions. You can either hand it poison, words of fear and doubt, or you can hand it commands of power, discipline, and purpose. Your subconscious won't argue. It will simply obey. That's the fifth truth. Affirmations are not empty words. They are commands. And when you repeat the right ones every night, you're not just talking, you're programming your future. Nighttime reprogramming as a ritual. Here's the mistake most people make. They treat bedtime like a throwaway moment. They drag their tired body into bed, scroll through their phone until their eyes burn, or pass out with the TV still buzzing in the background. No intention, no awareness, no discipline. And then they wonder why they wake up drained, anxious, or unfocused. The truth is, they wasted one of the most powerful opportunities they had, the last few minutes before sleep. If you really want to change your life, you have to start treating those moments as sacred. Nighttime reprogramming shouldn't be an accident. It should be a ritual, a deliberate, consistent practice that turns every night into a training ground for your subconscious. Think of it like this. The night is a doorway. You can stumble through it half asleep, carrying the baggage of the day, or you can walk through it with intention, planting the seeds of who you want to become. The Stoics believed in rituals for a reason. They understood that structure creates freedom. Seneca wrote that each evening should be used to examine the day and prepare the mind for tomorrow. That wasn't superstition, it was strategy. So what does a nighttime ritual look like? It doesn't have to be complicated. 5 or 10 minutes is enough. Start by shutting down the noise. Turn off the screens. Put the phone away. Let the world go quiet. Then breathe. Slow your body down. Signal to your mind that it's time to release the chaos of the day. After that, feed your subconscious something intentional. Affirmations, gratitude, visualization. Tell yourself, I am in control. I am disciplined. I am growing stronger every day. or picture yourself walking confidently into the life you want, feeling it as if it's already true. The power of a ritual is repetition. Do it once, it feels nice. Do it twice, you notice a shift. Do it every night, and it becomes a discipline. And discipline is what rewires you. The brain responds to patterns. The subconscious thrives on repetition. The more often you perform your nighttime ritual, the deeper the commands go, until they stop being practices and start being your identity. Compare that to how most people end their nights. They replay regrets. They drown in worry. They let random distractions shape their subconscious. That's still a ritual, just a destructive one. The difference is, they didn't choose it. It became automatic. And automatic habits always win. If you want to break free, you have to create a better ritual, one that serves your growth instead of sabotaging it. And here's something important. A nighttime ritual isn't about perfection. Some nights you'll be exhausted. Some nights you'll feel unmotivated. That doesn't matter. What matters is showing up anyway, even if you only whisper one affirmation, even if you just take 2 deep breaths with intention, even if you only visualize for a minute. The point is to send a clear message to your subconscious. I'm in charge. I choose what goes in. I decide who I'll be tomorrow. The Stoics believed freedom came from mastery of the self, and mastery of the self comes from rituals, repeated actions that anchor your mind to what matters most. Nighttime reprogramming is exactly that. It's an anchor. It's a way of saying, I will not let this day define me. I will define tomorrow by what I choose to plant tonight. So don't treat bedtime like an afterthought. Treat it like a ceremony, a small, quiet ceremony where you prepare your soul for the day ahead. Because every night you either reinforce the old patterns that keep you stuck, or you install the new patterns that pull you forward. That choice is yours, every single evening. That's the 6th truth. Nighttime reprogramming should not be random. It should be a ritual, a sacred discipline that transforms the most ordinary moment, falling asleep, into the most powerful tool for building the life you want. Breaking the limiting story. Every single one of us carries a story inside, a story about who we are, what we deserve, and what's possible for us. Some of those stories are empowering, but many are not. Many of them were written for us long before we were old enough to choose. Maybe a teacher told you that you weren't smart enough. Maybe your parents made you feel like you'd never measure up. Maybe life knocked you down so many times that you started to believe you were meant to stay small. And now, without even realizing it, you're still living by that old script. Here's the problem. The subconscious doesn't know the difference between a story you chose and a story that was forced on you. If you repeat it enough, if you think it enough, your subconscious accepts it as law. I'm not enough. I always fail. I'll never change. These phrases, said often enough, become chains. They don't just limit what you do, they limit who you believe you are. The Stoics warned us about this trap. Epictetus said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the view which they take of them." In other words, it's not reality that holds you back, it's the story you tell yourself about reality. And if that story is filled with limitation, then your life will shrink to fit it. But here's the good news. Stories can be rewritten. And the best time to rewrite them is at night, right before sleep. Why? Because that's when the old story is most vulnerable. In that quiet space, when your conscious defenses fade, your subconscious is listening, and whatever you tell it becomes the new script it starts to rehearse. Think about the power of this. If you've lived for years under the story, "I'm not good enough," Imagine ending every night with a new line. I am capable. I am building. I am growing stronger. At first, it feels fake. The old story fights back. But repetition is stronger than doubt. Night after night, the new story sinks deeper. Slowly, the subconscious begins to replace the old script with the new one. And when your story changes, your identity changes. And when your identity changes, your entire life changes. This is how people break cycles. Not by one dramatic event, but by rewriting their inner story, one night at a time. The limiting beliefs that were planted in childhood can be uprooted. The old voices can be silenced. The past doesn't have to keep directing the future, but only if you choose to step in and take control of the narrative. Here's a practical example. Let's say you've been carrying the story, "I always give up." That thought has shaped your actions for years. Now, instead of letting that be the last thing you tell yourself, you replace it with, "I finish what I start." "I am disciplined. I keep my promises." You repeat it every night before sleep, even when you don't believe it yet. And slowly, your subconscious accepts the new command. The next time you face a challenge, that new script kicks in automatically. Instead of quitting, you push through. That's not magic. That's reprogramming. And here's the truth. Your story is either your prison or your freedom. If you let it, it will chain you to old versions of yourself forever. But if you rewrite it, it becomes your path to transformation. The Stoics believed that while we cannot control external events, we always control the story we tell ourselves about them. And that story determines everything. So tonight, before you sleep, ask yourself, what story am I still living by? Whose voice am I still obeying? And most importantly, what new story do I want to write? Because the moment you choose to rewrite it, your subconscious will listen. It always listens. And tomorrow, it will begin to act on the script you gave it tonight. That's the seventh truth. You are not trapped in the limiting story you inherited. You can break it, you can rewrite it, and the best time to do it is in the silence of the night, when your mind is open and ready to receive a new narrative, one that sets you free. Neuroplasticity is your ally. Here's something incredible about the human brain. It's not fixed. It's not stuck in stone. For years, people believed that once you reached adulthood, your brain was basically locked in place. Your habits, your personality, your abilities, all set forever. But science has proven that's not true. The brain has something called neuroplasticity, the ability to change, to rewire, to reshape itself based on what you repeatedly think, feel, and imagine. And that means you're never really stuck. Your brain is like clay. Every thought, every image, every emotion presses into it, leaving a mark. Repeat the same thoughts long enough, and those marks become grooves, deep pathways your brain follows automatically. That's why habits, both good and bad, feel so powerful. They're not just choices, they're patterns written into your wiring. But here's the good news. Because of neuroplasticity, those patterns can be rewritten. And nighttime is one of the best times to do it. Why? Because the subconscious is most open right before sleep. When your conscious mind begins to relax, your brainwaves slow down, entering states where imagination and emotion have more impact. In those moments, what you visualize, affirm, or feel isn't just a passing thought. It's shaping your neural pathways. It's giving your brain new instructions, telling it, "This is who I am now. This is the future I'm building." Think of it like a mental workout. If you keep replaying fear, worry, and doubt, you're training your brain to make those states automatic. You're strengthening the muscles of anxiety and insecurity. But if you spend those moments before sleep replaying strength, discipline, and gratitude, you're training the opposite pathways. You're literally reshaping your brain to make confidence, focus, and resilience more natural. The Stoics may not have known the term neuroplasticity, but they understood the principle. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily to live with courage, justice, and self-control. Why repeat those ideas over and over? Because repetition rewires identity. Because the more you focus on a thought, the more it carves itself into you. That's neuroplasticity in action, 2,000 years before science gave it a name. Here's an example. Imagine you've carried the belief for years. I'm not disciplined. Every time you say it, every time you think it, you're carving that pathway deeper. Now, imagine instead you spend 5 minutes every night visualizing yourself waking up early, training hard, finishing your work with focus. You feel the pride of it, the strength of it, as if it's already true. Do that night after night, and slowly your brain begins to rewire. The old pathway of I'm not disciplined weakens, and the new pathway of I am disciplined grows stronger. Eventually, it becomes the default. That's not wishful thinking, that's biology. The brain follows what you feed it, and neuroplasticity is your greatest ally if you use it wisely. But here's the catch. It works both ways. If you let negativity, fear, or self-doubt dominate your nights, you're still rewiring your brain, just in the wrong direction. Neuroplasticity doesn't care whether your thoughts are empowering or destructive. It just builds whatever you repeat. That's why it's so dangerous to go to bed with complaints, toxic media, or self-criticism. You're handing your brain blueprints for a weaker version of yourself. So the question is, what blueprints are you giving your brain? Are you letting old habits and limiting beliefs harden into permanent pathways? Or are you using the power of neuroplasticity to create new ones, pathways of strength, resilience, and growth? The Stoics would challenge you to take this seriously. They'd say, guard your thoughts because they shape your character. Guard your character because it shapes your destiny. Modern science simply adds, your brain is ready to change at any time if you give it the right commands. That's the eighth truth. Neuroplasticity is your ally. Every night before sleep, you hold the power to rewire your brain, to reshape your identity, to program the person you want to become. And the more you repeat it, the more natural it becomes, until one day you realize your brain has been rebuilt into the strongest version of you. Consistency over feelings. Here's one of the biggest traps people fall into. They wait to feel like it. They tell themselves, I'll do my affirmations when I'm in the mood. I'll visualize when I feel inspired. I'll reprogram my mind when the energy is right. And, because feelings come and go like the wind, they end up skipping days, losing momentum, and eventually quitting. That's why so many people never change. Not because they don't have the knowledge, but because they only act when they feel like it. But the truth is simple. Transformation doesn't come from feelings. It comes from consistency. The Stoics knew this better than anyone. Epictetus taught his students not to let moods dictate their actions, because moods are unstable, but discipline lasts. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily to rise and do his duty, even when his body resisted, because greatness isn't built on comfort, it's built on repeated practice. Think about it like this. If you only brush your teeth when you feel like it, your health falls apart. If you only work when you're in the mood, your career collapses. If you only train when you're motivated, your body never grows. Feelings are unreliable. Discipline is reliable. And when it comes to reprogramming your mind before sleep, the same rule applies. Consistency beats inspiration every single time. The brain rewires itself through repetition. That's how neuroplasticity works. One night of affirmations won't change you. One night of visualization won't rewire years of limiting beliefs. It's the steady drip, night after night, that reshapes your identity. You don't notice the change at first. It feels invisible. But underneath the surface, your subconscious is adjusting, adapting, and strengthening. Then, weeks or months later, the shift becomes obvious. You think differently, you act differently, you are different. Here's the catch. Those first nights often feel pointless. You whisper an affirmation, you try to visualize, and nothing seems to happen. That's when most people give up. They say, "This isn't working." But that's like planting seeds and then digging them up the next morning because you don't see a tree yet. Growth takes time, and the only way to guarantee it happens is to stay consistent, no matter how you feel. Consistency is also powerful because it builds trust with yourself. When you show up every night, even when you're tired, even when you don't feel like it, you prove to yourself that your word matters. You're no longer a prisoner of moods. You're a master of discipline. And that builds self-respect, the kind that can't be shaken by outside circumstances. The Stoics would call this freedom, because real freedom isn't doing whatever you feel like. It's doing what's right, regardless of how you feel. Feelings are like weather. They change constantly. But consistency is like the sun. It rises every day, steady, dependable, unshaken. That's how you have to approach reprogramming your mind. Not as a hobby you do when the mood is right, but as a discipline you do because it shapes who you're becoming. So here's the challenge. Stop asking yourself, "Do I feel like it tonight?" The answer doesn't matter. Instead, ask, "Who am I becoming through this practice?" Then show up, even if it's just for 2 minutes, even if it's one affirmation, even if it's one deep breath of intention. Because the power isn't in the size of the action, it's in the consistency of it. That's the 9th truth. Feelings can't be trusted, but consistency can. Reprogramming your mind is not about waiting for magic. It's about showing up night after night, no matter what, until the change becomes permanent. Because in the end, greatness doesn't belong to the most inspired. It belongs to the most consistent. The silent choice. Every night before you close your eyes, you face a choice. It doesn't make noise. No one sees it. No one applauds it. But it's there, silent, powerful, and life-shaping. That choice is this. Will you use the final minutes of your day to reinforce your limitations, or will you use them to program your greatness? The truth is, the decision you make in that quiet moment doesn't just affect your sleep, it affects your future, because your subconscious never sleeps. It will spend the next 6, 7, 8 hours working on whatever you gave it. If you fall asleep with anger, regret, or self-doubt, your mind multiplies it through the night. You wake up with the weight of yesterday still on your shoulders. But if you fall asleep with intention, gratitude, and vision, your subconscious spends the night building a stronger version of you. The Stoics understood this. They practiced nightly reflection, not as a luxury, but as a discipline. Seneca advised reviewing the day each evening, asking, "What weakness did I overcome? What progress did I make?" This wasn't just philosophy, it was strategy, because he knew that every night was a chance to reset, to choose again, to point the mind toward virtue instead of vice. But here's what most people don't realize. That choice is silent. No one will cheer you for putting your phone down instead of scrolling. No one will clap when you whisper affirmations instead of replaying old mistakes. No one will congratulate you for closing your eyes with gratitude instead of fear. It's a private decision, invisible to the world, but heavy with consequences. And that's why so many people miss it. They think change happens in big, dramatic moments. They want a breakthrough, a lightning strike, a life-changing event. But real change happens in the small, silent choices you make every day. The choice to act with discipline instead of impulse. The choice to feed your mind strength instead of weakness. The choice to plant seeds of vision instead of weeds of doubt. Think of it like water dripping on stone. One drop doesn't matter, but drop after drop, night after night, it reshapes the rock completely. Your subconscious works the same way. Every night your choice, though silent, drips into it. Over time, it carves new patterns, new beliefs, a new identity. And one day you wake up realizing you are not the same person you were months ago. You didn't transform in one loud moment. You transformed in silence. This is what makes the silent choice so powerful. It's always available. No matter how chaotic your day was, no matter how many mistakes you made, no matter how heavy life feels, you still have those final minutes. You still have the power to decide what you'll hand your subconscious tonight. That's the ultimate reset button. And most people never use it. So ask yourself, what will you choose tonight? To replay your pain, or to reprogram your power, to rehearse your fears, or to affirm your strength, to fall asleep as a prisoner of the past, or to drift off as the architect of your future? That's the 10th truth. Every night you face a silent choice, and though no one sees it, no one hears it, and no one claps for it, that choice shapes your destiny, because while the world sleeps, your mind is working. And it will build tomorrow based on the script you gave it tonight. Better sleep isn't more sleep. Most people think the secret to better sleep is simply more sleep. They say, if I could just get 8 or 9 hours, I'd wake up refreshed. If I could just sleep in, I'd feel better. But you know as well as I do, that's not always true. There are nights when you sleep long hours and still wake up heavy, tired, or restless. And there are nights when you sleep less, but wake up sharper, calmer, and more energized. The difference isn't the number of hours. The difference is the quality of your mind before you rest. Sleep is not just physical recovery, it's mental processing. Your subconscious doesn't shut down. It keeps working, organizing your memories, storing emotions, and replaying whatever you fed it before bed. If you went to sleep with stress, anger, or negativity, your brain marinated in that all night. You might have slept 8 hours, but it was 8 hours of your subconscious rehearsing the wrong script. That's why you woke up drained. The Stoics understood this even without neuroscience. Seneca wrote about the importance of preparing the mind for rest, saying that peace of mind was the key to real rest. He didn't mean luxury or comfort. He meant mental clarity. Going to bed with a quiet, disciplined mind was more restorative than any number of hours spent tossing in emotional chaos. Think about it. If you eat junk food all day, going to bed earlier won't make you healthier. In the same way, if you feed your mind junk thoughts all night, more hours won't make you stronger. The quality of your rest comes from the quality of your inner state. And that inner state is completely in your control. Here's where it gets practical. If you want better sleep, you don't necessarily need to add more hours. You need to change how you enter sleep. That means creating a mental ritual, a moment of stillness where you choose what thoughts and emotions will guide your subconscious through the night. Instead of scrolling endlessly, shut it down. Instead of replaying regrets, focus on gratitude. Instead of worrying about tomorrow, Visualize strength and clarity. Even 5 minutes of this intentional practice can transform the quality of your sleep. Science backs this up. Studies show that people who practice gratitude or visualization before bed not only sleep better, but also wake up with more focus and optimism. Why? Because their subconscious spent the night reinforcing empowering thoughts instead of destructive ones. Their rest wasn't just longer, it was deeper. And here's the paradox. Sometimes less sleep with a clear mind is better than more sleep with a cluttered one. You can sleep 10 hours with anxiety and still wake up tired, or you can sleep 6 hours after feeding your subconscious strength and wake up ready to conquer the day. Quality beats quantity every single time. The Stoics would challenge you to treat bedtime like entering a temple, not a place for distraction or noise, but a place for order and discipline. Your bed becomes the altar where you decide what to hand your subconscious. And the offering you give it, fear or strength, doubt or vision, will decide how you wake up. So stop obsessing over the number of hours. Instead, ask, what am I feeding my mind before I close my eyes? Am I preparing it for peace or for chaos? Because that's what determines whether your sleep restores you or drains you. That's the 11th truth. Better sleep isn't more sleep, it's higher quality sleep. And quality comes from preparing your mind like a sacred space before you rest. Protect that moment, and you'll discover that the true power of sleep isn't in its length, but in its depth. The mind is sovereign territory. At the end of the day, there's one truth no one can escape. Your mind is your own sovereign territory. No one else lives there. No one else can manage it for you. People can influence you, distract you, try to shape your beliefs. But at night, when you lay your head on the pillow, you're the only one who decides what your subconscious will carry into tomorrow. This is both a responsibility and a gift. Responsibility, because you can't blame anyone else for what you choose to feed your mind. And a gift, because it means you always hold the power to change. The Stoics knew this well. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Mastery doesn't begin with the body, the job, or the relationships. It begins with the mind. And your mind is the one domain where you are always emperor. The problem is, most people surrender their territory without even realizing it. They let social media, news, and other people's opinions flood their thoughts. They let old voices from childhood, parents, teachers, critics, still echo in their head as if they're law. They hand over their mental sovereignty to everyone but themselves. And every night, instead of programming their mind with vision and strength, they let outside noise dictate their inner world. But the truth is this: no one can climb into your subconscious without your permission. They can speak, they can shout, they can influence, but only you decide which voices stay. Only you choose whether to replay their words or silence them. And the moment you realize that, you take back control of your life. Think about it like a fortress. Your mind is the castle, your subconscious the treasure inside. Every night, you stand at the gate. You can either let invaders walk right in, fear, anger, doubt, or you can guard it fiercely, letting in only what strengthens and protects you. No one else can stand at that gate for you. It's your job, your responsibility, your sovereignty. The Stoics would remind you that life is full of things outside your control: health, wealth, reputation, even the people around you. But the one thing always within your control is your mind. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's the essence of sovereignty. And nowhere is this more true than at night, in those last moments before sleep, when you decide what your mind will carry into tomorrow. Here's the empowering part. Sovereignty means freedom. No one can force you to replay negativity. No one can make you affirm weakness. No one can stop you from planting seeds of greatness. Every night, the choice is yours alone. You hold the pen, you write the script, and your subconscious will obey. Of course, with freedom comes weight, because if you don't take charge, someone else will. If you don't guard your mind, the world will gladly fill it with noise, distraction, and fear. Sovereignty is not automatic. It must be claimed. And once you claim it, you must defend it every night, like sacred ground. So the question is, how are you ruling your territory? Are you a careless king, letting invaders run wild through your gates? Or are you a disciplined ruler, protecting your land, planting seeds of strength, vision, and discipline in your subconscious? That's the 12th truth. Your mind is sovereign territory. No one else can do the inner work for you. No one else can reprogram you. No one else can decide what you think before you sleep. That is your responsibility, and it is also your greatest freedom. Because the moment you accept full ownership of your mind, you stop being a victim of circumstance, and you start being the architect of your destiny. So here's what we've discovered. Your nights aren't just for rest. They're for reprogramming. Every single evening, before you close your eyes, you hold the most powerful tool for transformation, the thoughts, feelings, and images you choose to feed your subconscious. The Stoics understood this long before science gave it a name. They knew the mind never sleeps. They knew the subconscious accepts everything you give it. They knew those final minutes before bed are the golden doorway, where you can either plant weeds of fear or seeds of strength. They warned us about the danger of negative thoughts, because what you repeat becomes your reality. But they also knew the opposite is true. Affirmations are commands, and when you use them intentionally, you reprogram yourself. That's why reprogramming at night should be a ritual, not an accident, because it's at night that you can break the old, limiting story you've been living under, and with the power of neuroplasticity, your brain will adapt to whatever you repeat with intensity. But it only works if you're consistent, night after night, whether you feel like it or not. Because each evening you face that silent choice: reinforce your limitations or install your greatness. And remember, better sleep isn't about more hours, it's about quality. A mind prepared with gratitude, focus, and vision will rest deeper than one filled with chaos, because at the end of the day, your mind is sovereign territory. No one else can rule it for you. The thoughts you choose before sleep are your responsibility, your freedom, your crown. So tonight, when the world goes quiet, don't just collapse into bed. Take ownership, guard your mind, plant seeds of power, not weakness. Because what you do in those last 5 minutes will echo through the next day, and eventually through your entire life. If this message spoke to you, don't just let it fade away. Hit subscribe right now and join this journey. Because here, we don't just talk philosophy, we turn it into practice. Every night, every choice, every breath is a chance to reprogram your life. And never forget, the night is not just the end, it's the beginning.